Yeah, well, there's a lot of things, let me officially, introduce myself. I am I-Maa-Ra, singer, songwriter, young revolutionary. I started out as a young revolutionary from about age 15. You know, um, I was intrigued by politics and religion. As a youth growing up, I grew up in a household where my grandfather is really my step grandfather, because he didn't have a biological child, but he was the one who cared for my uncle and my mother. So he married to my grandmother, right? And he also cared for me and my younger brother. So his name was Kadusa, right? So he's my step grandfather. So I grew up, saw him practicing a thing that you call Karamanti spirituality, right? And my grandmother was a more Pentecostal Christian, so I grew up in that surrounding, understanding the African retention and African spirituality. Me kind of intertwine with Western Christianity, because my grandmother was a Pentecostal Christian, but whenever my step grandfather, was performing his Karamanti spirituality, she was there as an interpreter, when he used certain words, and we in the physical realm could not understand the spiritual expression that he was expressing, So that was a part of my thinking as a young man, observing these things and analyzing within my mind what was going on. At some point, a little bit confused because what my step grandfather was practicing was something that was demonized, I mean? And it was outlawed too, if the establishment caught him doing what he was doing, he could go to jail for it because he was this kind of healer. Well, I came out of that background, And as I said, by age 15, I started to delve into to politics and religion more and more, So I entered into the music business, started to write songs and them thing there. Well, we want to talk about the Morant Bay Uprising, and but before the Morant Bay Uprising, there's a series of things that led up to that, and we have to look on those things that, led up to the Morant Bay Uprising. And some people call it a rebellion, but it was always a constant struggle. It was always a constant battle, from we as African, touch this shore. And to be correct and to go with the facts of history, we were here before Columbus came. That's the reality. There's a book by Dr. Van Sertima that said that the title of that book is We Were Here Before Columbus. And if you look at some of the pyramids and some of the artifacts in South America and even in this region, you can see the similarity with these symbols and these pyramids and artifacts with those that are in ancient Kemet. You understand?
Yeah.
So I just want really to go like from maybe about the 1500 when Columbus came here, and when they came here with some Black Moors as well. You understand? And those Black Moors was a part of the struggle when the English came in the 1600s. They came here and it was the intention of the English, and Oliver Cromwell was to capture this region. And their prize, what they had their eyes on was Hispaniola, because Hispaniola was like the center for the Spaniard within this region, you know?
Yeah.
So they tried, you know, to capture Hispaniola and failed miserably, right? So what took place, they end up signed the Treaty of Madrid, you know what I mean, in 1670 with the English, you know, to get Jamaica because they failed to capture Hispaniola. So this is how the English become like, what they call it, I don't want to use the word owner, but, you know, they become in control of this island called Jamaica.
Right.
You know? So from the 1670s up, it was a set of pirates, you know, and robbers. And before sugar, they were planting other produce here on the island. So they need workers. The intention of Cromwell to rule England and to set up a system that, you know, would assure the English people that they can be safe without the monarch, you know, was his intention, you know. And by doing that, he came up with some resistance from some of the people, especially in Ireland and other places. So what he decided to do is to see how he could ship out some of those people to a place like Jamaica and here in the Caribbean, because what they would call them is low-life white people or low-life English people. See?
Right, right.
So these people came here and decided that, oh, because they were what they call rebels, you know, there were people who fighting against Cromwell and his administration, right? So you have people, the two person where them used to really attack Hispaniola is Admiral Penn and Robert Venables, if you read about them history there, and see how them try to capture Hispaniola and it never worked out. So under that, under the by 1760s now, when them control Jamaica, there are a series of things happen. You have Henry Morgan, who ruled up, was a pirate up till 1692, when the earthquake shook up Port Royal, you know, and then, you know, they moved to Spanish Town, and Spanish Town become the center now, you know, there's a place in Jamaica, you know, and being there at Spanish Town, it was De La Vega City before it named Spanish Town, because it was a place that was ruled by the Spaniard, you know what I mean?
Right, right. So
that was one of the things that was happening there. And the resistance continued because the set of Moor that were here on the island that came here with the Spaniard, some of them were resisting the English to be in total control, right? But there was this one person who fought with the English, this brother named Juan de Bolas.
Juan de Bolas, okay.
Juan de Bolas, yeah. So Juan de Bolas was a Moor, but he fought on the side of the English. And that is how they were free to control lands in the hills of Jamaica. And some of those lands are places like a Compound Town, Moore Town, you know, Scott Pass, you know, all of these maroon villages that are in control up till today by that group of people who resisted that kind of oppression. So,
and you said that there's a place called Moortown?
Yeah, there's a place here in Jamaica called Moortown. It's in the eastern part of Jamaica. We call it, which is in the parish of Portland.
All right.
Yeah. So, and when you check the history of Moortown, you know, say it is connected to the Moors. That's how it get its name, Moortown. You understand? And, you know, so the whole history of that is there when you observe that, you know? So, coming on to the 1700, the struggle continued, you know, till it came down to people like Kojo and Kwawu and Akongpong and all of these people fighting. So in 1738-39, the British and the Maroon signed a treaty. And that treaty that they signed was to give the Maroon autonomy as a government over them own people. You understand? And to control lands that they could be independent of the English, because it was nearly 200 years of battle with the Maroons and the English, you know? To be precise, maybe it's not 200 years, but, you know, up to maybe 100 years. But I am just putting it from the time that we as African resisting these two masters, the Spaniard and the English. You understand? So that's why I'm summing it up that way.
All right. So over a century's time between the Spaniards and the British. Yeah.
Between the Spaniard and the British. Well, you know, but the conflict between the Maroons and the British was up till maybe about 100 years of intense battle, right? So after the 1739 treaty, you realize that the English still wanted to manipulate and control the island certain way. Then there was this African Fante chief who was a king that people, if you just study the history, said he was a king who involved also in the slave trade. You know, history showed that he was a Fante king from, I believe, Ghana, and what he participated in is to sell his brothers and sisters here. And he was captured here and was sent here. So he, and his name is Chief Taki.
Okay, so that's Chief Taki, all right.
Aye. So when Chief Taki, in the 1760s now, about 1760, Chief Taki organized an uprising against the British. Then, according to the Jamaican history, right, the Maroon sided with the British and helped to capture Chief Taki and put down that revolt. Out of that revolt, there was this brother who then called him Bookman Dotty, who was also a part of that. He escaped and went to Haiti and helped to start the Haitian Revolution. We're not going to go that far, but we just assure the history. So the struggle continued from the 1760s. So I'm bringing it up now to another major uprising, which was the Christmas Rebellion on this side of the island, led by a Baptist preacher that they call him Samuel Sharp. That was 1831 to 1832, that uprising. Now, that uprising was a pivotal part of how chattel slavery now was on the verge of eliminating. So this is how you're going to get with fundamental liberty. I don't want to use the word fundamental, and I shouldn't use that, but some sense of freedom. Because why I don't want to use that word is because up till now, we're under economic, mental, and psychological slavery. So the fundamental slavery has not yet been achieved, you know?
Right.
So, but to free the people from under chattel slavery, and then they would come in with what you call indentured laborer, see, where they start to our apprenticeship, where the enslaved African would no longer work for free, but they were on their way to getting small wages, right? And this is between the 1830s. So by 1834, the proclamation took place. And then finally, 4 years after that, 1838, the full, according to them, the full freedom took place, right? But under slavery, under that kind of, and that is when what we call name colonialism started.
Right.
Right? So they were ruling from England directly now. See? Now, not directly, there was a legislative council here. That legislative council was set up under the governor who were here from Jamaica. See? So between the 1830s to the 1840s to the 1850s, things weren't so beautiful here on the island.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because those who are no longer free labor enslaved Africans, I am using that term, enslaved African, because we don't like to use the word slave because we weren't slaves, you know what I mean? We were enslaved. What took place is that life get very tough, very hard, you know, because them say we're free, but we don't have no property to work on. Imagine you are the properties of these people who call themselves English, and them have the enslaved Africans as their property. Now, when the proclamation took place, the 1838 proclamation that we are no longer slaves, we didn't have anywhere to work. So you still have to work on their plantation for small wages. Some of the enslaved African work and bought their freedom.
Okay.
Right? They had to buy their freedom from the English. Because one of the things what happened, you know, what people must remember, when they claimed that slavery was abolished, the masters or the slave owners got what you call name compensation for their properties. So they got in all 40 million pounds for the properties that they claimed, because that was a negotiation, right? And to just tell you the fact about it, it was just 2015, taxpayers finished paying off that loan, you know, that the yeah. Whew. You know what I mean? I can't give you everything right here. It was 2015, because it was a loan that the English government took out to pay the merchants, because the people who were the slave owners were private, what do call it? We would call it capitalist, you know, like private sector. So they were private land owners and private trade, because some would have 150 slave on them plantation, some would have 200, some would have 50. So all of them who have them little plantation, you know, with slaves, you know, got compensation for their lost properties.
Right. And during that time, that was when, in order to vote, you had to be a landowner, right?
Yeah. Well, you never even lead up to that. That never start up until about into the 1850s.
Okay.
And people like Paul Bogle now, who was a young man coming up, he bought his freedom, and he was one of those persons who could vote. But there was this person named George William Gordon, who was a part of the Legislative Council, right? And his mother, her name is unknown, but his father was somebody who was once a slave owner, and his mother was an enslaved African. So he became a prominent person and was a part of the Legislative Council. And he was always talking up for the condition that the slaves were, the free people were going under here because they weren't slaves anymore, but then don't own any property and then don't have nowhere to work and this and that. And so a whole lot of things was happening. And because they don't have anywhere to go and work, they end up have to be capturing land. So people like Paul Bogle now, for instance, Paul Bogle who owned over 500 acres of land in a place called Sertima, a village where we call him Stoneygut. Right? And people claim that the people who were there with him were enslaved people, but they weren't enslaved people. He was building a community, you know what I mean? And that was a threat to the establishment. At the time, there was this governor here who they call him Governor Here, E-Y-R-E. So Governor Here was here and was very oppressive. And though George William Gordon was standing up and trying to see how much, you know, we can have a better standard of living for the people. They weren't up to it. They even wrote a letter to the Queen of England at the time. And the reply that she gave is that they must go and work a little harder. You know what I mean? And that they were indolent and lazy and all of these things. So a lot of the people couldn't even believe that the Queen of England, which I believe was Queen Victoria at the time, you know, who replied in that manner. You know, so Paul Bogle and a group of people decide that, you know, we need to go and visit the governor at Spanish Town. At the time, the center of government was at Spanish Town. So Paul Bogle walked 65 miles from St. Thomas to Spanish Town and back to deliver a letter. Well, the governor never even come out to listen to him. Right? Then, so, on the 7th of October, 1865, let us go there now, on the 7th of October, 1865, there was something took place that Paul Bogle ended up have to go down to Morant Bay to solve some problem with somebody who they arrested and charged for working on a piece of property. So because Paul Bogle recognized what was happening and they went down there, some of the people went into the police station and freed the man.
Okay.
So when them freed that individual and took him back to Stoneygut, a militia and police force, at the time it was a militia, went up there for Paul Bogle. And when they went up there, the people in Stoneygut arrested the police. You understand? And they plead, and Paul Bogle allowed them to release them back.
Oh,
and
wow. Then
there was another court case now, which I believe it was the 11th of October, the same 1865. And Paul Bogle with his brother Moses Bogle arranged that they would go down to Morant Bay. The history book funny, you know, but when you look deep into what took place, you realize that they got fed up now and decided that they need to put them shoulder to the wheel because things are not getting any better. And by the hook or the crook, something have to happen. So they marched down to Morant Bay, right? One set come from a next side called Wilmington, and the next set come down the side we are calling him Spring Garden and come down into Morant Bay. And when they came to Morant Bay, there was this Custos Van Kettelholt.
All right, yeah, Van Kettelholt, yeah.
You read about him.
Yeah.
So he was one of the person who was like putting up certain resistance, and they had somebody in the courthouse and they charged this individual. I am trying to remember exactly what they charged him for. And they entered the courthouse and took out that man from the courthouse.
Oh, was it? Didn't he like interrupt the? He interrupted the case that was taking place in the courthouse.
There was a case taking place for that individual. So somebody went into the courthouse, right, and demand the freedom of the individual that they charge, right?
All right.
And what took place? The guards or the police at the courthouse fired on the crowd, because there was a crowd of people outside standing, decided that they want the freedom of this individual, right? But you see, as you say, it's not everything that is written in the history book goes. There's a book named The Killing Time by Heuman. I don't know if you can find that book.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. Within that book, it shows how the rebellion really started. There's this lady named Letitia Gohegan. When she realized what was happening, she decided that she was the first person who threw the first stone in the courthouse.
Oh.
So you never really start by man. It's a lady named Letitia Gohegan. And there is where everything break loose, right? So maybe Van Kettlewalt was killed.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe about 100 white people. But it was literally a massacre, slaughter, because they murdered over 434 of Paul Bogle's followers. And they dug a mass grave behind the courthouse and put both living and dead people in it, because some people never dead.
Damn, that's dark.
Yeah, man, behind the Morant Bay courthouse. You know, we had several ceremonies around there just to honor those ancestors that buried in that mass grave behind the Morant Bay courthouse, right? And after the 11th of October, I just realized we are in the month of October, and about the Morant Bay Uprising too. You know?
And tomorrow it marks the wow, over 150 years since it began, because you said October 7th.
Yeah, maybe it's nearly 160 years now. You know, it was over 150 years. You know, we celebrate maybe about 1865. 1865. It is about nearly 160 years now.
That's amazing.
So what took place is that after that uprising, Paul Bogle and a lot of the brothers them escaped, and Paul Bogle was hiding out for maybe about 2 weeks. You know, so it wasn't like a long after that they caught up with Paul Bogle. And they sent for a militiaman and they burnt over 1,000 houses, you know, and imprisoned and murdered a lot of people, right? Because, and what they did, it was not just the ordinary people, because the history don't show that there was a lot of intellectuals within that community, bright people, you know. They would call them people who have them own little business, because people were lifting themselves out of that economic system of oppression. Because what took place, you know, them recognized that this thing was about economics. All of it was about economics. And when them realized that the free labor now is putting a dent on their economics power base, and they are not making that profit, they wanted to re-enslave the people in, because these people become independent now and start to make a living for themselves. Small farmers and traders and all of these things were happening. And this is why the pressure now come on the people. And it was not just the local politics. And one of the things that I must always look on is the geopolitics, how the geopolitics impact the local politics. Because when the Morant Bay Uprising was going on, the Civil War was taking place in America in the same time, right? So trade with goods and all of those things were putting extreme amount of pressure on our local economy. You understand? So within all of that, it was an uphill task for the people who just free themselves, because this is what we must look on. Slavery, the freedom wasn't about the British giving us freedom. It was a constant struggle. That's why I took you from that time up till 1865. It was a constant struggle for the people to have a level of liberation.
And you said during that time, around 1865, that was when they were starting to build their own economy. You know, between the 1840s up to the 1860s. You know, because as I said, Paul Bogle and other people have their own economic system. You know, some of them could afford to buy land, to free themselves, you know. See? And as I said, George William Gordon, who never have anything to do with the uprising, and not like him to organize anything, but he was somebody who was very close to Paul Bogle, and because of his association with Paul Bogle, that's why he was armed. Right. And he was also, I read he was also a heavy critic of Governor Eyre.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You know, so Governor Eyre didn't like him. You understand? Governor Eyre didn't like him. You know, there's this book from the sister here.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, and there's some little history about the Morant Bay Uprising in it also, pertaining to you know, to what took place. So as I said, Governor Eyre inconsistently obstructing the flow of governance under Governor Eyre. So I never really like it. You know, so one of the problems too is because they excommunicate George William Gordon from the vestry. I don't know if you read that.
I did not.
Yeah, so the people was unsatisfied about that, because the person who are part of the legislative council speaking up on their behalf, you know, them fire him. You understand? So because of that, so after the Morant Bay Uprising and the Morant Bay War, they sent for the militiamen, and they came and they invaded the communities of Stony Gut and places where my grandfather come from, a place named Middleton, you know, the hills of Airfield. You know, you're not going to find them thing in the history book, because some of these history came down to us as oral history, right? And what took place, they burnt houses, they slaughter the people, and they hunt Paul Bogle for weeks. And according to the history, he was turned over to the English people by the Maroons. They claim that is the Maroons who captured Paul Bogle.
That was what I read, yeah.
You know, which that is a constant conflict that we are having here on the island. See? Because who are really the Maroons? The Maroons are African just like us, you know, but the divide and rule tactics with the English and these people continues over the year. They try to see how they can put a wedge between the people. And when you look at it within the reality, Paul Bogle was a part of the infrastructure. It was because things get bad while Paul Bogle rebelled against them. You could say Paul Bogle was one like Juan de Bolas. Juan de Bolas fought on their side, you know what I mean? And after a while, Juan de Bolas ended up having to fight them. See?
Paul Bogle the same, because and when we look at the Maroon saw themselves and still see themselves as a set of people who never begged for freedom and who never bought their freedom. They fought for it, right? People like Paul Bogle bought his freedom and want to be a part of that colonial system. But it was so pressuring for him that what he ended up doing was he has to rebel against the same system.
Right.
You understand? So if you observe history with the Maroon and those who did decide to remain on the plantation, there is always a conflict, and people like Paul Bogle would fall into that category of Bakra master slave who don't want to totally liberate themselves from the plantation. Because the plantocracy system was still governed by the people that the Maroon resisted.
Okay.
The Maroon have their own governmental system. So those who remain on the plantation or remain within the system are a part of the system because they are being governed by them.
Right.
You over what I say?
Yeah.
So
I am seeing it like from both sides.
Yeah.
You know?
So when he rebelled and tried to escape based upon the treaty that the English and the Maroon had, they have no choice but to return him.
Right.
You understand? Because it's the reason why you are fight them now is because of your things not too right with you. So if things did right with you, maybe you are one of them would have come try to overthrow us. Because there were a set of people who they call them the black shots.
The
right?
black shots.
Yeah, the black shots. The black shots are like agents for the English. So they would go into the Maroon community, pretend they want to escape from the plantation, but what they were doing is were informing and making ways to invade the Maroon community. So the Maroon recognized that also. You see, so it was always an uphill task, and the English and white people played them tricky upon with so much. How to divide with, with education, with the structure of how them set up them governmental order. They use these little tactics, how to always divide with the color of your skin, woman against man. If you read back the Willie Lynch, they call it the Willie Lynch, How to Make a Slave.
Yeah.
Yes, right? If you look on all of that, it's the same principle up till today.
Like what happened in the Caribbean and also what happened in America, here in America. It's the same tactics.
It's the same tactics. Is the same tactics, and it worked through a system that they call education, and it worked through the system that they call religion. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you observe religion, if you observe education, the infrastructure, how it's set up, this is the kind of system that they use, or the kind of tactics, I use this word, the kind of tactics that they use to keep the people fighting against each other on every level.
Right.
So I'm trying to remember if two of them, Paul Bogle, I'm trying to remember if Paul Bogle was hung on the 24th, or George William Gordon hung on the 24th, and Paul Bogle was hung on the 20th. George William Gordon was hung on the 23rd, and Paul Bogle was hung on the 24th. So after the Morant Bay Uprising was quashed, I could put it that way, right? That is when England decided to rule directly. So 1866, that is when they formed what we call in Jamaica the constabulary force.
All right.
And the constabulary force was put in place to protect plantocracy, not to protect the people, right? And from that time until now, we have been facing that level of struggle. And it didn't stop, you know, till we move up to what we call independence. So after 1865, it got worse. It got worse. And the struggle continued into the 1930s, you know?
Right.
And Marcus Garvey, who 1887, just a few years after the Morant Bay Uprising, you know, Marcus Garvey was born, you know? So looking on all of that what happened with Paul Bogle, after Paul Bogle execution on the 24th of October, right? And then they put a system in place. And what happened since then, as I said, it was constant struggle. It is constant struggle for our liberation. So Marcus Garvey become prominent within the 1916 and formed the UNIA that time, went to the United States. The movement get very huge and massive there, you know, start to garner millions of followers,
right?
You know, from all over the world, not just in the United States alone, but places like Belize, Cuba, you know, you can check the history.
Right.
You know, millions of followers all over the world. And what took place, they end up put down Marcus Garvey, that he was sent to prison. And by sending him to prison, you know what I mean, charging for fraud. You know the whole thing about the Black Star Line. Yep. And Marcus Garvey came back to Jamaica and formed the People's Political Party. That was 1929. You know, within the 1930s, things weren't any better. You know, the working class here was really struggling, right? And it continues up. So put it nearly 100 years after the Morant Bay Uprising. Condition of the people. So may I bring you up now to when they erect a statue out there.
Right.
The whole thing of the Morant Bay Uprising. I believe this was in the 1960s, to be precise.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they put that statue there, the people was rebelling against the statue. That doesn't represent Paul Bogle.
Yeah.
And from that time till about 2000, not about 2007, till 2007 to precise, from 18, I don't know how I missed that history. You know? Something like that. No, it was in the 1963, about after they gained independence, they commissioned the statue. And Edna Manley went to St. Thomas, found this person who they claim was the grandnephew of Paul Bogle, right? They call him Mr. Bagan or Bagan, right?
All right.
And she created this culture. If you see the statue, like something like this.
Yeah, I saw the photo of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was placed in front of the Morant Bay courthouse. But when you look at that image, that looked like a crucifix more than anything else. So it didn't show you the resistance of Paul Bogle and show you as somebody who become like a lamb to a slaughter. Because he's like this, and he also have like a machete pointing down to his reproductive system.
It's all symbolic.
It's a symbol of death.
Yep.
You know what I mean? A symbol of oppression more than a symbol of resistance. Right?
And
And there was this program by a sister here on a radio station, we call her Kabu, named In Search of Paul Bogle. It was not just Paul Bogle alone, but there were other people that she set out to find out the history. So they went to Stony Gut and the whole Bagan thing come up again. See? And when it came up again, people decided that, you know, we need to get rid of this statue if this statue don't represent Paul Bogle. Funny enough, in the same year, a young man went and dug out the back of the statue and it came down, right? And the people just decided that they don't want it back there. So I was a part of that movement. We started to sign petition. Our petition the government, we petition the member of parliament. We got the mayor for Morant Bay involved in the whole thing. He too had some history about what took place. So he also was resisting against that image that was there because they knew the history of the person that Edna Manley used to create that statue. And I want to tell you, they seem as somebody that was of not a sound mind. So that was one of the things that was very disrespectful to the people of St. Thomas.
Wow.
You understand? You know, you see, the history of St. Thomas is really a tough one, you know, because up till now, St. Thomas people are suffering for what took place 1865. Up till today, St. Thomas people are suffering for that. You know, the aftermath of the Morant Bay War, a lot of people had to change their name. People who were connected to the Bogle family had to go underground and hide themselves because the system would marginalize, would victimize them. And not just victimize it, you know, would just kill them if they find them.
Mm-hmm.
So many people, I know people will end up when they attack and when you tell them, they must show them bloodline come. I'm going to tell you how serious it is. Some people who originated from St. Thomas don't want to associate themselves with the parish.
I see.
You understand? Because them start to label it as a parish of Wobia, a parish where, you know, the queen broke her pen on it. You understand? All of these little talk, you know what I mean? And if you observe the people in that parish until today, they are some of the most resourceful people, you know what I mean? People who are independent, who into them farming, who survive on their own. So to just observe the history of that little parish, it is really deep, you know? It's really deep. Because most of the resistance on this island to eliminate the slavery, most of those resistance started within that Eastern Bloc.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I did like what you just said. I guess the reputation of St. Thomas, because the only thing that I've heard about St. Thomas was the rebellion, and then also just the whole Obia stigma.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I know about it, you know.
So you know, them don't show the brilliant people that came out of the parish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the great contribution that people from that parish made to Jamaica, and not just to Jamaica, but to the world. Because St. Thomas produced some of the best aggregates in the world when it comes to the sands and you know, some of the best aggregates. Some of the one at a time too, during slavery, St. Thomas was like the most profitable place in Jamaica to the enslavers. So losing St. Thomas was losing, you know, a big part of their economic power. right?
It's all making sense why St. Thomas is in the state that it's in now.
Of course, you know, because people like Bookman Dotty, though the Taki uprising was in St. Mary, you know, which is another parish that suffered a lot too because of these uprisings. You see, they have some file on us, you know, and the history of certain people, and they recognize the bloodline of these people.
Yeah,
are strong, right? Because I grew up in what I call a maroon village, and we were independent of the system, you know, and we realized the reason why our people found themselves in those villages is because they fought and escaped the plantation and go up there and build their own houses and create a system to survive, you know, farming, you know, rearing cows, you know, goats, you know, planting bananas, cassava, and, you know, develop a community. So the infrastructure recognized that and realized that if you allow these people to continue to expand themselves like this, then they will not have the kind of economic power base that they want to have. You know, and this is what led up to what we call the Industrial Revolution. All of these resistance and where we find ourselves now, where we're calling the Fourth Industrial Revolution. All of these things is the resistance. It is because of the resistance of African people. We have to observe these things, you know, my brother. Every change that is taking place in the world right now, it is because of African resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Go as far as history, because we up till now are really the builders of world economy.
True, true.
Check the science, check the mathematics, the world movements and understanding of the solar system and all of the things. We are the founder, member. And since then till now, we have to find a way how we can navigate and make the change we want to make. You know, one of the things is that we are still under colonial education. That is not helping us, you know. Sorry if I kind of get a little bit emotional, but this is the reality that we are facing as a people. Even up till today, we find ourselves in that kind of mental and psychological enslavement. You understand? Because the same color prejudice, the same classes infrastructure, a lot of our people uphold these things, you know, and that is what is causing us to be in the condition that we are in, that it is a struggle for us to move forward.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it is working in the best interest of those who created a system of education, not in our best interest, but to serve the interest of the colonial masters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
even to this day, you have what you said earlier with the black shots.
Up till now.
Up till now, they're still around.
You understand?
Yeah.
So just to put all of these pieces together, and because the fight between two European countries to control this Western Hemisphere, which was Spain and England, and then within the midst of that, we African got caught, right? And as I said, we were here. And when Spain came here, because remember that the Moors ruled Spain for over 800 years.
Okay.
Right? So when Spain came here, they came here with some black engineers as well and professionals. So the whole thing wasn't about slavery. There were very bright intellectual persons here and people here, African here on the island, who contribute to the development of a lot of infrastructure that you go around, you know, some of these old great houses that established on the island. If you go into some of these towns, you know,
Yeah.
it was the English who built those things. It was the blood, sweat, and tears of our people, and not just physical work, but intellectual work. Scientists and engineers, you know.
Yeah.
That's who we are, you know. So it is where we're at, my brother. That's where we're at, you know.
I always just love diving into history, no matter like what it is, but I've just always been fascinated about Jamaican history from coming from, you know, just listening to the music, and you hear parts of history being talked about in the music, you know, and sometimes it's not as clear, and you want to find out more. Like, for instance, 96 Degrees in the Shade was about Paul Bogle. I didn't know that until I read about what the song was about, and that it was called 1865, 96 Degrees in the Shade, 1865, and it all started making sense. And so I started finding out what I could about Paul Bogle, and I said, there's got to be more to it, you know?
Yeah, the song from Third World.
Yes.
96 degrees in the shade, real hot, whoa, yeah, in the shade, you know?
Yeah.
and there's a part, the line that's really a talk about it. Excellency, before you I come with my representation. You know where I'm coming from.
Yep.
Caught me in the loose. I'm trying to be free. You show me your news. Under cotton tree, entertainment for you, martyrdom for me. See? So what the writer was saying, you know, they caught Paul Bogle on the loose, trying to be free. Now you show me the noose on the cotton tree because he was hung.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On the cotton tree. And while while that was taking place, just like lynching in America, it was entertainment for the people who was carrying out that gruesome act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is really a powerful song, you know?
It is. It is.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those songs that you have to decode because it not really say anything about the Morant Bay Uprising. But
exactly.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So that's the power of poetry, you know, my brother. That's the power of poetry, you know?
Yeah, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, you know? So the struggle continues, my brother. The struggle continues, you know, after an independent or so-called independent, we see the people still facing the same oppressive system. The same oppressive system. And the sad thing about it, and this is why we have to look and pay close attention to education. The people who are now in the political seats of Jamaica, you know that the Parliament of Jamaica is still the Queen's Parliament. Well, now it's the King's Parliament because the Queen died.
Right.
And immediately after the Queen died, everything switched over to the King the same day. I don't know if you didn't know that how was when it announced that the Queen of England, Elizabeth, died. In less than an hour, there's a prominent lawyer here said that the Chief Justice directed counsels in the court that they must now stand and say, "Hail the King of England." How after she died?
I didn't know it was that quick.
Yeah.
That's immediate.
Yeah. I heard it from a prominent lawyer. We call him the revolutionary lawyer here in Jamaica. His name is Bert Samuel. You can search him out. You know what I mean?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah. But this is a book, you see, bro. This is a book that I believe every one of us supposed to have, you know. If you know, this book named The Politics of Change by Michael Manley. You know what I mean? You know? So sometimes, you know, to go into the history, because he was one of the person who was trying to change the kind of economic structure of colonialism here in Jamaica.
Right.
You know what I mean? To give the people that kind of empowerment through education, through skills, you know, to empower yourself, you understand? To become owner of a piece of property here, because we're still here on what we call a piece of land in Jamaica owned by the crown. After the treaty, the 1670 Treaty of Madrid between Spain and England, you know, they literally signed over Jamaica and said, all right, England, that a phone a piece of island. So from that time till now, 1670, they claim that they are in control of this place called Jamaica. You know what I mean?
So this is all just confusing, because I mean, I do understand it, but I mean, just as far as it being owned by England, but yet the land that the Maroons, there's like a gap.
You see a kind of confusion, my brother.
Yeah.
You understand? So there's some deeper documentation, and right now, pay attention to Jamaica. I want you to pay attention to Jamaica. That's all I can say to you right now, because there's some shift that is taking place right now, based upon even that treaty between the Maroons and the English.
Okay.
You understand? Because what the Maroon was doing was to make the 1670 treaty with the Spaniard and the English become null and void.
Oh, okay.
You understand the deepness of the thing?
Yeah.
You know, because they literally, the English, remember, you know, when you are fighting a war and the person who come to you to seek peace, which side is on? The losing side.
Yeah.
Ah,
of course.
Look at that. Just pay attention to that. It wasn't Kojo who went to them. They are the one who came to Kojo.
Right.
So
they can't let it go.
When him Guthrie, Colonel Guthrie, and if you observe, he wasn't even a monarch, he was just a colonel.
Okay.
Here, you understand?
So he wasn't, he was nobody.
He was nobody. So dig deeper into the thing. So there's a lot of missing link, my brother, you know, and that's why them say most time when your oppressor wrote your history, there's a lot of lies in it, you know?
Yeah.
And it is very important that we start to write, you know? And that's why I'm playing my part through the work that I'm doing, music and poetry, you know what I mean? And we're imploring our brothers and our sisters to read. We must make it our point of duty to dig deeper into even our own selves. You know what I mean? To trace the history and to analyze things and to see how we're going to make one and one look different from two. You understand? because this is how it is. Because sometimes they're one-on-one, the two way not even work out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to create our own one-on-one and say, but wait, this not really make two according to you. You understand?
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Yes, babe, you know. It's a joy to see the eye and know that you're a young man, you know. I hope I share enough that you can digest, you know. I'm happy to see a young man like you know, showing interest in something like this, you know.
Thanks.
Our history and the impact that it has on the world and what we need to do to move forward as a people, because we are in changing times right now and we can't find ourselves behind any longer. I'm saying we need to take charge. We need to implement things that will work in our interest and to work in the interest of our children, you know?
Right.
We must take full charge now. We can't sit any longer and blaming our oppressors for the condition that we are in today. There are too much information, there are too much things within not just their books, you know, but within our DNA, you know. We need to center ourselves some more. And by centering ourselves, the revelation of things will come through us.
Right. And like what you said, just sitting down and blaming.
No.
I noticed that the ones that do that don't really know about their history. Because
exactly.
if you really understood your history and where you were coming from, you would know what to do now.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because you would recognize the victories that were won, the many small victories that we have won that brought us to this point.
Exactly. Yep.
You understand? And this is one of the reasons why I always say to people, don't keep saying that they freed us.
Yeah.
No, we stood up against them and resisted until this time, because the reason why I don't want to say, as I said earlier, I don't want to say we are totally liberated, because we are still under economic slavery as we speak. Right now, Jamaica or the IMF and the World Bank and all of these people, billions are maybe into the trillions now.
Possibly the trillions now, because I remember it was like 17 billion in like the 90s.
Yeah. So we're literally into $1 trillion debt right now. And it's not just the English or the white oppressor. We realize that we are getting into debt with another nation now called China.
Yep. That's what I've been hearing.
So we one of the great things which I want you to pay attention to this. You see, law is one of the tools that they use to keep us in check. Law, right? Do you know that Paul Bogle is still on the book as a criminal?
Yes.
All right. So how do you have a criminal as a national hero? Sam Shark is still on the book as a criminal. How do we have a criminal as a national hero? Marcus Garvey, who is our first national hero, is still a criminal.
Yeah. Here in the States. He's
in the United States of America. Right? Now, just think about that psychologically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You understand the deepness of what we are going through, my brother?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the reason why they are criminals is because of what? They had to break the laws. They have to break the laws. See? They had to break the laws that the colonial master put in place. to keep them in check.
Yeah.
Now, I said that to say this. In order for us to really liberate ourselves, we cannot adhere to unjust laws.
Yeah.
You can't obey laws that is oppressive. I mean, and this is one of the things that we're faced with and continue facing up till now. We faced it then, and now we are still going through all of that.
Yeah.
You know? So we have a lot of work to do, my brother. You see, we want to catch the attention of our younger people, you know, because you see, if we can't catch them attention, we're fighting a losing battle, you know. Because I am seeing myself as an elder, you know, you understand?
Right.
And that's why I am happy that I'm looking at a young man like you before me, you know, with interest into these things, you know what I mean? And to see how we can sensitize and educate our people outside of the schoolroom of the colonial system, you know, and to see how we can make a change.
Yeah, because I know everyone, or they like to say everyone likes things quick, and you know, like a 1 minute video and stuff will catch their attention and all of that. I guess it's just because I put it this way: people who think for themselves are patient. That's the way I see it. If you think for yourself, you're patient enough to really observe and learn something, you know.
That's it.
It's the ignorant people, it's in the word ignore. They just tend to just block out everything, and they never learn anything, you know. And with a lot of people my age, like sometimes if I want to talk about music or whatever and stuff, before I even go into it with someone my age, I ask them, do you want to hear about this? You know, and if they show interest in it and say yes, then we start to have that conversation. But a lot of times I can't waste time with them, because it just becomes a waste of time if they don't want to learn anything.
True. You know, and you know, I want to commend the eye, because it takes courage, you know, to really step out and do something different, you know, and that's why I'm applauding you for making this move, because when I observe how a lot of our young people are functioning now, you know, they are gearing towards a kind of lifestyle that is more material centered, more than something uplifting and spiritual, you know.
Yeah.
Or we can lift ourselves out of the kind of system that we are under right now. Because it will have to take some effort on our behalf. We must know that where we are today, we are taking it for granted, my brother. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You understand? That brought us to this point. And if we are not showing respect to our ancestors, we are going to suffer for that.
Yeah.
Because energy and spirit are real. You know?
Yeah.
It's like we are committing sacrilege against the people who gave their lives for us to be here now. What are we doing? Dancing and singing and partying and drinking and whining and dining it out while there are work for us to get done.
There's so much to do right now.
Yeah.
There is so much to do that's just being put to the wayside.
Yeah. What are we using our brain to do now? Those of us who attain some level of intellectual education, why we can't think out? I don't like use out of the box, you know, because if you're chopping at the box, you're done chopping at the box.
Yeah, exactly.
But I am saying, just see yourself as somebody who is free, man. Understand what it means to be a sovereign human being, a sovereign man who are not depending on somebody to tell you how to move, when to move, how to think, what to think. That's supposed to be your responsibility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I see that like here in the States. Sometimes I feel like people want to be controlled, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And this is the thing. We are looking for what we call saviors. And that is one of the tricks that they played on us.
Yep.
When you set out to look for somebody to save you, you're in trouble. And they use religion with that trick. So even amongst the most militants who call themselves militant among us, we are still looking for another leader like Marcus Garvey to save them. They are still looking for another Jesus Christ to save them. You understand? I respect the nation of Islam, you know. But to be just talking about Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to just worshiping the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and not finding the power within yourself and knowing the duty that you have to your family, your immediate family. Because it have to start this, you know. If you can understand the responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your community, and by extension, to your country, and by extension, to the world, you cannot live under the shadow of another man.
Yeah.
Every deity express that. All that is within me is within you.
Yes.
You understand? If you go into the Bible, even Christ said that, Jesus said that, all that is within me is within you. Paul Bogle knew that. Paul Bogle come to the realization, but guess what? These people who are trying to rule me, they are no more a human being than me. You know, if you read Gary Heuman, you can hear some of the speech that Paul Bogle made. If you go back to Sam Sharp said, "I rather to die and yonder gallows than live in slavery." That was a bold statement. You know, he will not subject himself to assist him. He rather go down. You know what I mean? So all the revolutionaries, if you study them, that's how they live.
Yeah.
Down to Malcolm X and those who are political prisoners now in the United States and all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
They rather to give up this physical body than to surrender to a system that is oppressive. And that is what the Morant Bay Uprising was all about, you know, brother. That was what it was all about. But you know, even should I be willing to die for it, you're supposed to willing to give up yourself for yourself.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but you have to get deeper because that is here is not me, you know. There's something deeper than me. Right? So to preserve what is deeper than this physical, I rather to give up this physical, which is something I accumulate to preserve the deeper part of myself.
That makes a lot more sense.
The words I may say.
Yeah.
And that is the courage that those leaders find. Them find their inner self, knowing, just like how it said, I have the power to lay down this and to take it up. Then Marcus Garvey said, you will see me in what? The whirlwind. I will be more powerful in death than in life.
Yes.
That's a bold statement. That is when you reach a particular level. If you go back to even your own America leader, when them Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. And if you listen to parts of I have a dream, is that it doesn't matter to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whether I live or whether I die, that is a conviction, it's a devotion.
Right.
And this is where we want our people mind to be at. That kind of devotion and conviction to understand the struggle that our ancestors been through, reaching that level of understanding of yourself and know that there is no surrender because the physical will die, but energy and spirit live on. We cannot die, my brother. We are forever. We must know that.
Yeah.
And that is why, go ahead, my brother, go ahead.
The way you just broke it down there, that is the problem with the younger generation and my generation as well, is that they are so focused on the physical that they're not even digging deep like that.
No.
To know that there's something beyond this body. Yeah. So there's no spirituality with I guess we're known as the millennial generation.
Yeah.
We have a lack of spirituality. And then the ones that claim to be, I don't believe them.
I'm going to show you something, and it is it. All right. Nickname, black skin, white mask. Now, we see recently they implement us wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they are doing now is use materialism to mask our spirituality.
Perfect. Perfect.
Overstand that.
Yeah.
So what you look on within the materialistic world with your spiritual eyes, what it does, it cloud your third eye, which is your spiritual lens, to turn within and know your true self. So you keep looking out and don't have an understanding of your true self.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, Frantz Fanon said that years ago, black skin, white mask. So we are still wearing the mask.
Yeah.
Over our spiritual high.
I noticed it's like nothing's really changed. Like everything just remains the same. It's only, I guess you could say it's just intensified more.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And the more it becomes intensified, is the deeper for those of us who are grounded. We're going to dig a little deeper because we're now assured of ourselves and know what we're about. Those who are not assured of themselves will be like a rudderless ship because they know not where they are going.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're like a rudderless ship blowing like the wind, that the wind tosses to and fro, then you are going to find yourself in serious problem, you know? And that's why this kind of discourse between me and you and other younger brothers who you can find within your community, that you can sit and talk. You see, the art of communication and reasoning, my brother, is something that we must instill within ourselves. You know what I mean? Because this is where knowledge flows through, you know. When you and I can sit and have this kind of discourse here, you know, over nearly an hour, me and you talk about some history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I see where you don't ever want to leave. You know what I mean? So nobody can tell me again that young people don't want to sit and listen. Because as a young man, you're there listening. And I see that you're very, you know, intrigued about what I have to share. You understand? So even me have to start to thinking of myself and realize that we have work to do. And we need to step out and stop assuming ourselves that young people don't want to listen. Because when you plant one seed, you know, one seed can feed a nation. Just learn how to nurture that seed and watch that seed germinate, you know, bear fruit, and the fruit start to multiply and everybody can get a piece of the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the whole thing what we have to look into. How the seed that you plant, how can it benefit not just you, but generation after generation after generation. And that's why what we are doing now, you know what I mean? it is not just for us here, but it's how much we are going to impact generation coming. You know what I mean? We have to also look how we are going to develop platform like this that is independent of them. Because there are some things we realize happening too, that sooner or later, some of the things that we go and research and Google, we now go find them, you know, because they're not controlled by we.
Right.
You understand?
That's why it's important to have books.
Yeah. You know, because they might put you in a position that even the information where you're going to search for, you end up you're going to end up you have to pay a very, very high cost for it. And you have to have a piece of equipment like when I have your so. How much we can buy a laptop, especially an Apple laptop?
Yeah.
What I say? So to even acquire information, they expand themselves that they become the owner of all information that is even pertaining to us. Our art, our music, them capture it, them control it. Everything is up on iTunes and all these other platforms, right?
Yep.
And the author of these works are not even earning from them, but they are controlled by some other people. People may be listening when you ask me the question about the Morant Bay Rebellion, or with what the word I'm using now, or it is relevant to what you're talking about now. We are talking about Morant Bay Rebellion, but if you look, there's a connection. There's a connection with how far, and that's why I took you from events leading up to the Morant Bay Rebellion to where we are now. And what I'm saying, the struggle continues. A loot continues. We can't just look on history and say, because right now we are creating history. Every day of your life is a historical moment. That every time you get up and do something, you make sure whatever you are doing, it is of some value. Remember me said that to you, Zed. Every moment of your life, see it as an historical, invaluable moment. And if you can keep that in your consciousness, whatever you get up and do in the morning, you are going to make sure that this thing that I am doing, I am going to do it because it is of intense and immense value to myself and those who I'm going to share it with.